people may not be able to feed. And so the question of how long it will take, because you are one of those who were vigorously campaigning for the Bola Tinubu presidency. And now that we are here, 7 months down the line, the question will be how much more can we wait? Or how much more can the people who are suffering suffer?
Well, I think you are contradicting yourself with due respect when you say, how did you put it? Something like painful and whatever. This is not a football match that is built for 90 minutes with the possibility of extra time of 30 minutes. And if there is no solution, you go for penalty shootout. You are dealing with an economy that, in all facets, has had its own challenges. Job creation, unstable currency, leakages here and there, etc., etc. Now, as to the question about whether leaders are in touch with the people, with the reality, if they were not in touch, all the talk you had about reviewing minimum wage, some debate as to how do we deal with food prices in the short run. Should we resort back to importation? Should we insist that we incentivize our farmers and get them back to the farm and give them all the incentive they need to produce the food that we need? All of that doesn't suggest that the leadership is not at home, is not aware of the challenge that we face. I think the president is very much aware. All of us are very much aware. I am very much aware. This last week on the floor of the Senate, we debated these issues. We debated the issue of security. We debated the issue of high cost of living. And we debated the fact that we are not here to lament it. We are here to take two solutions and fix it. Now, if you ask me how long it's going to take, I will tell you no. It's not I'm not in a position to prescribe time. But that something serious is being done, yes. That the president is determined to fix it, yes. That he has enough good hands around him who share his conviction that the economy must be fixed, yes. But when are you going to say it has been fixed? No, not a correct question. Because at the end of the day, this process, we will keep on managing it. First is to stabilize, because you met a country that's just going down. Your first step is to stabilize it. After you stabilize, you begin to go up. And that journey has to continue prayerfully, that you don't suffer another shock as to dim again. And so nobody who wants to be honest with you will say, well, I think in 3 months it is fixed. But I admit that the human being can't be subjected to hardship in a manner that makes him begin to wonder if there is hope for tomorrow. Yes, we do need to take some measures to cushion while we work on long-term sustainable solutions.
So there are those who are watching right now and say, well, you were a former national chairman of the APC. It is what, an 8th year of your party being at the helm of affairs. And some members of your party, including yourself tonight, may have spoken as though it was another political party that was in charge before the Tinubu government took over about 7 months ago. It is your party that's taken Nigeria into this path, isn't it?
Well, it depends on what you understand. I have always said, even at this station, and when I was in the Nigeria Labour Congress, if there is conflict between what I consider to be Nigerian national interest and a political party, or indeed any other organization that I belong to, I have no hesitation in subordinating my party interests to the bigger national interest. I have also argued that all the political parties put together, they are not up to the subtotal of the Nigerian nation. So my first loyalty is to the Nigerian nation. And yes, the fact that we belong to APC, at a point, if you follow the bill, you were too busy maybe in Abuja. Even before the last president left office, I lamented aloud, queried aloud, and denounced aloud what I saw as reckless policies that were designed to dehumanize a population that was already in pain. And I thought that that is not what the then president promised. And I said, I dissociated myself from those policies. And I'm happy that I wasn't the only one. There were governors who felt so strong that they went to approach the court to deny some of those policies. It is the long-term, some of the consequences of those policies that we are still grappling with now. I am on record as saying that those who say our currency will expire, not due to our own fault, confiscating our currency, but with the change of government, they will expire. And our currency will be valid. And this has come to pass. There is no denying this. Yes, it's our party platform. But Tinubu also said he was never a minister in that government. He was not an advisor in that government. He never took contract in that government. And then we cannot be held responsible for what the government did right or did wrong. But I don't think tonight you want to, I really don't find any joy. Because like I said to my colleagues on the Senate, I did come to Abuja to lament. Let's think of what do we do differently to fix it. So because anything that has to do with overflogging what we didn't do right yesterday, I'm not sure how helpful is it. It's not exciting to me to discuss. And I don't think Nigerians want to hear that.
It's just the sensibility
so
of
whether it is my party or it's not my party, or it's somebody else's party,
it's about
bottom line is this problem must be fixed.
It's about the sensibility of Nigerians. It's this same platform that have caused Nigeria these pains that we are complaining about. The same platform of the APC that has caused Nigerians this same problem that we are grappling with today.
That is only half of the truth.
Well, isn't it the same APC that was in power for 8 years, comrade?
I thought you were coming to discuss where we are in and how to get out of it.
Yes, but the fact is that
if you told me that you were
what the problem was,
organize a tutorial on history, I would have found a more convenient day to do that. I did cover that.
Well, comrade,
I am not here to discuss what some people didn't get right yesterday. I am here to discuss what we must do differently and fix the challenges that we face.
When the economic handlers came on the floor of the Senate, do you have a feeling that there are possibilities of us fixing in the immediate those low-hanging fruit that we can get? Yes, there are measures that might take a bit more months and more years for us to get by, but do you have a sense that there are solutions of low-hanging fruit, the immediate, that can give succor to Nigerians? Did you get that from them?
You know, my dear friend, you know, I've attended a lot of conferences, economic talk shows, etc. You know, when the economists or commentators talk about low-hanging fruit, sometimes I ask myself, how low is the hanging fruit? Because for you and I, given our own peculiar challenges, what is a low-hanging fruit to a 6-footer? It's extremely high-hanging fruit for you and I, because we can't touch it. So there are some of these concepts that are not problematized. Now, you want to give a food to the dwarf, you put it on top of this high table. Look at the challenges I had getting on top of this seat. So there's no such thing as low-hanging fruit. In the real world, it's nice to talk about them in conferences, make some concept here and there, but truth is, every policy choice has implications. There is none that you say, oh, I can only see the benefit. It has side effects. Some will benefit, some will suffer some pain. On the whole, the challenge for public policy maker is, which of these policies will best deliver the greatest good to the greatest number, amid competing interests, and coming under pressure from various vested interests. That is a situation every state executive must face, whether at the local government level, at the state level, and obviously at the national level.
Because you look at, you sat in some of those meetings to mediate between the federal government and Labour. And there are agreements that are made, and Labour is giving the federal government a 14-day ultimatum to fulfill some. Because according to Labour, the federal government has not been faithful to the promises made. To those,
which of those promises?
Yeah, because there are 15 line items in the agreement that the federal government made with Labour, upon which they said things were going to be done, and that's what the Labour is asking the federal government to do. Some of which include the grant of a wage award of 35,000 naira to federal government workers, a minimum wage committee, which we've seen the setting up, the federal government to suspend collection of value-added tax. There are 15 items. The Labour is saying that the federal government has not been truthful in accomplishing those agreements.
Do you know my honest view about this? Because like I said, Labour is my constituency. Without Labour, nobody will know that Oshomole exists. So nothing and absolutely nothing will change me from who I am. I have to pay, and I said this on the floor of the Senate last Tuesday. Yes, the federal government approved 35,000 naira increase on top of current wage levels. And I said, I am unable to understand why any Nigeria state governor or government is not implementing that agreement. So I don't even agree with you that it was for federal employees. Federal employees don't have different market from state employees. And the struggle that was mobilized, the workers of Nigeria were mobilized, both private and public sector, in what we call a general strike. Before that, 35,000 was awarded. By implication, therefore, all state governments, all local governments, all private sector employers, and of course, all federal government employees should implement it. I don't think NSC business is to lament it. They should fight for the implementation of their right. Any government that refuses to implement the 35,000 is not entitled to peace. I mean, this is my view.
But
and I don't think
in
NSC
the agreement, it was a federal government it was a federal government workers. The agreement was for federal government workers.
Why were state government participating in the strike?
So, but the question is, when they sat down to make those agreements. It was called a general strike.
It wasn't called a national. If it was the federal government employees, then the negotiation should have been between the federal government and this Federal Civil Service Union. When NSC negotiate on behalf of all workers, whether federal, state, local government, and private sector. If it is purely federal affairs, there is Federal Civil Service Union. If it is purely private sector affair, you have a Nigeria Employers Consultative Association that will have a meeting with the NLC. But when NLC against the federal government, and I know that state governments were represented in those meetings, the agreement reached, in my opinion, ought to apply, ought to have national application. So including you in China, you should increase your pay by at least 35,000. Every employer in Nigeria, that is my understanding. Because there is no disputing the fact that whereas the subsidy has triggered increase in prices, there is no denying the fact that as a consequence, the revenue in nominal terms accrued to states, federal and state government has also doubled. Some might say it has tripled. Because if at the time of negotiation it was 500 naira, and the exchange rate is now 1,000, whatever, 200, 300, 400, it means that what is available to the federation account for distribution has also quadrupled. So why will you keep workers' wages fixed? I don't agree with that.
So you support Labour on this one?
If the federal government refuses to pay their own agreement, what do they expect? No, when it comes to these issues, my conscience tells me where I stand. Because I can't survive on my own pay. My cook can't survive on his own pay. He has to go home and come back. I mean, we are not living in the moon. So, but my problem with the NLC is apply your tools selectively. When I was president of the NLC, we have agreement. If the federal government is not implementing, we target the federal government. If a particular state government is not implementing, we limit our action to that particular state government. It is not that if one state government is defaulting, then you spread the protest, in which case there is no incentive for obedience. So I don't have the details. I have not had opportunity to discuss with them the specific of this agreement, but I will make a qualified comment. If it is true that the federal government is not implementing the 35%, as far as I know, in the National Assembly, they told me they have started implementing. I have also heard from workers in the federal employment as also not implementing. What I heard is that most of the state governments are not implementing. But my attitude is this: whether state government, federal government, private sector employers, everyone should implement that minimum of 35%. Because if even the private sector employers, they have increased the prices of their product. When you talk of high cost of living, it's a result of the new price regime that manufacturers push to the market. So if they are making more naira, they should also pay more naira to their employees. So for me, that is it. But I don't have the details. But I think NSC must know how to selectively apply their carrot and stick. If an employer is paying wages, is obeying the agreement, the workers in the employment of that employer have no business joining the strike. The strike should be focused on those recalcitrant employers, whether they're in the public sector or in the private sector. That's my view. And it is wrong to call a general strike if at the end of the strike an agreement is reached. That agreement should have national application. If we all went to the kitchen to bake the bread, when it is ready, all of us must partake in the eating. So you can't mobilize all the workers for a strike, and then you get concession, and then the concession is limited to federal government alone. Because the benefit of devaluation and of the withdrawal of subsidy affects positively the treasury and the allocation available for distribution to all tiers of government. And therefore, all tiers of government should obey the 35,000 naira increase.
What do you make of the position of the court now has a position, because Mr. Femi Falana had gone to court asking, he got an order from on the federal government for the control of price of essential commodities. Do you agree with that position?
Well, my very good friend Femi is a senior advocate of Nigeria in law. I don't know whether, so I'm not going to comment on legal issues. But price control, we've had it before. And even the concept of essential commodity is a bit problematic. What is essential to you may not be essential to me. I think what government needs to do, what I think is viable, is that we should all put on our tiki cap and provide solutions or suggestions to government on what needs to be done differently to stabilize prices. But one thing is obvious to me, for as long as your exchange rate is not stable, it is highly improbable that any particular price of any particular item will be stable, because they are all intertwined. But when it comes to law, Femi Falana was the only one who has set me out of, got me released from the hands of my oppressors when I was president of the NSC. So if he is going to court, he's not a frivolous-minded person. He must have done his research and is convinced that that is doable. But I think it's not, for me, price is not a legal issue, because there is no section in the Constitution where a price of a particular product is stated. The concern of everyone is, how do we halt this galloping inflation? I think it's a legitimate concern. If law can solve it, fine, but I'm not too sure, because no law is worth it. No judgment. How do they say it now? Judges will always tell you that you don't enter a judgment that is not enforceable. You have to look at the tools available for the state to enforce the price of a product that they do not own.
Comrade, let me ask you, albeit seem a bit more putting you right on the spot, because I know...
You have always done so to me.
I know your relationship with the president. I know how influential you are in the APC. But you seem to have some sense of you that is more pro-people rather than pro-government. You have shown that over the years that you have been the president of the NLC. But give us a sense of what do you think that the president must do now, immediately, to show Nigerians that he's really, really committed.
Straight away, if the president has authorized or approved an agreement of a wage increase, it must ensure that that agreement is implemented to the letter. It must also use its influence to compel state governments to implement the agreement. It must compel private sector employers to implement the agreement. Because we shouldn't talk as if hardship is limited to those who work with who are in the civil service or who are in the public service. It's nationwide. And there's a way in which we can move away from this vicious cycle to a virtuous cycle. Because what I think is going on is that when you underpay and you destroy purchasing power of the working class, they lack the capacity to patronize the market. And so even in the face of want, you have employers unable to sell. Because when the economy talk of demand, it's not talking of in terms of who needs. It's talking about who has the means to procure what services he requires. So those are quick wins. And I think that this month, the revenue accrued to the federal government is going to be the same as it was based on the exchange rate of this month and the quantum of oil production and income. And therefore, the federal government doesn't need any scientists, economic scientists, to tell them what needs to be done. I believe worldwide, when you are faced with galloping inflation, you must find a way to adjust wages in a manner that, you don't subject the working class to starvation.
Comrade,
I watched one of your programs the other day, by the way. You invited this very seasoned economist. And he was still talking about this market forces. It's market fast. No nation. Governments are elected because the market cannot be trusted. There's a place for the market, but you don't resign to the market forces. No. Between the market forces and rigid state control lies the art of governance. That is my conviction. And this APC is a progressive party. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a progressive person. He has progressive credentials. He's not just a Democrat. There are right-wing Democrats, there are left-wing Democrats. He is a broad left Democrat. He recognizes the legitimacy of capital, but he also recognizes the right of the poor to hand their pay so that the rich can have their peace. I'm sure that any suggestion that would not make it compromise these core values which he has been associated with over the years, I'm sure the president will be willing to take them on board.
I'd like to switch into some other issues, but before I do that, I'd like to ask you, are you worried as a leader in the APC that what is going on in the nation is rather making your friend and your candidate, the president, and your political party somewhat unpopular?
I think you see what to... This is not a popularity contest. Governance and leadership is not about popularity contest. When a surgeon, a seasoned surgeon, will you into the theater because he is convinced that ordinary tablets or capsules can't solve your ailment, he's not expecting the clapping society around this scene.
So the popularity term, just for a moment, so that you don't misinterpret my language. The popularity term, in that sense, is about how the policies of government sit with the people. For example, there are agitations.
That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, so it's not about
the tools required.
We have to. So, for example, comrade, for example, there are agitations and people getting to the street and protesting. Agitation against government policy. When it gets to that, you know the consequences.
How old are you now?
I'm way over 40.
Absolutely. If you didn't say so, I will take you to court. Because you know in history, I have led protests against cost of living. You think this is new? Do you remember, were you old enough to know when Shagari went into this essential commodities board, Nigeria Something Procurement Board, the days of Umaru Diko, where in essential to people, Nigerians have to queue to buy a tin of milk? So we've had cycles of economic crisis. So those suggest as if something that has never happened is happening.
But I'm saying it's happening right now. Are you worried about the consequences? You guys are in power, Your Excellency.
You know my answer to you, Shehu? Every Nigerian, because you seem to, you have this assumption that consequences is with reference to those, quote, in power. There are consequences for you. For anybody who looks like you, there are huge consequences. Don't ever lose sight of that. Don't do like the proverbial selfish man who saw a man with mangoes, whose mango trees are by the roadside, and he put fire, forgetting that he has more mangoes inside the bush. And when the mangoes start from here, the fire starts, and he went there, and they will ask him, say, no, that fire that is burning there, that is not the one I set up. This is the only one I'm accountable for. There are consequences for you, for me and for everyone.
When the heavens are falling, it falls on everyone.
Heavens
That's why
will
I'm
not
asking
fall.
people.
Heavens will not fall, but
power,
if it has fallen before, because I have no history of seeing heaven fall, if you have it, if the heaven forces, we all under it, I guess that whether you are short or you are tall, there's no escape route.
That's why.
And did you know, have you studied the history of media when things go under? The role of media, what they suffer. Do you know what man called Malaulu?
I know Malaulu.
Let's not discuss.
So the question is, that's why we
further.
are holding people who are in power to account. That if things are going the way it is going...
Not the way you are not holding people accounting now, you are lamenting.
I'm not lamenting. I'm asking you questions about the solutions of this country. Come on.
And you want the solution to the problem of this country in 20 minutes.
I'm asking whatever manner in which you can summarize.
Even the problem of the media in this country, the problem of channel television.
They're discussing the problem of the nation.
30 minutes.
And you as a leader in this country.
I'm not the leader of this country.
You are a leader. You are in government.
You are a leader. I'm a leader.
You are in the National Assembly.
We are all leaders at various levels.
You are elected in the National Assembly.
You know, one mistake people make is to reduce leadership to only those in government. In this program now, I don't know your level in the ladder. I guess you are one of the leaders in this Politics Today program. Somebody came earlier to make up my face. I'm not sure how much difference it makes. And then I see people who are standing behind cameras. And then you and I have the luxury of being here. This one behind camera, they are not seen. But if something happens here, everybody will be in trouble. So don't ever imagine, don't reduce leadership to, quote, government. There are governance issues at every level, including corporate governance. All of that, how we do and what we fail to do, overall affects the state of affairs in the nation. I called you once when I watched your interview. I said, Chiu, you didn't quite understand the history of some of the things that happened in the past. When people lash on the kind of thing I think you imply, and by daybreak they find that you were all in soup.
We're due for a break, comrade. But when we come back, more conversations about the state of the nation. We will not get tired about talking about our nation, our love for it. But when we come back also, Senator Adams Oshiomhole will be talking to us about Edo politics. What are his views about the looming primary of the APC in Edo State? We'll be right back, everyone. Join us again.
Wires and cable.
My country people, I greet you now. You see this renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we all get hand inside out. Whether you be producer, seller, buyer, or who will be the regulators. Standards no be just one big grammar where we write for book. Now something will concern all of us. We all want to make our country better, make work dey nyafo. And when we travel overseas, make them respect us. I be no be so. Standard and quality now the only way it would take happen. If we follow standard, stop to the produce and import back products, and then report any fake product or people wey wan shit us. Then small, Naija go better. Make we shine our eyes well for the Mancap logo. It means say the product na correct one. As for sun, we be your body. Now together we go build Naija where every other country go respect. We go show them say standard and quality na our middle name. Abi how una say am?
Labour Party, Labour Party, day like beans and rice. Labour Party, I will never leave your side. I will never ever. I dedicate my time forever. Time to you, my people. Even if the road be rough, I know mine. 'Cause together we shall stand. Labour Party, who's your guy? Now Olumide Akpata. See us we dey like beans and rice. 'Cause together we shall stand.
For many years, we have secured and beautified your buildings with all security doors. And now, introducing Watson Time German, Israeli, and Turkish doors. Visit any of our factories, reach our distributors nationwide. Think doors. Think Watson Time doors.
Coleman Wires and Cable.
I've been speaking with the former governor of Edo State and senator representing Edo North Central District in the Senate, Comrade Adams Oshomole.
You meet former president of Nigeria Labour Congress. I'm much more proud of that than all these other ones you have mentioned.
So that's a long time. Well, a former president of the
Therefore,
NLC.
it has faded. That's what shaped my views and my values.
And that's what you are very much known for. All right. The primaries in the APC and other political parties in Edo State ahead of the governorship election will be holding. And over the last few days, the screening committee has screened about 12 persons, which of course you will see their faces on the screen, including some of those who are top in the race. And of course, you can see from a former Minister of Budget, Clem Agba, to a sitting member in the House of Representatives, former Deputy Governor, and a host of others on that list. Let me get the views of Senator Oshomole on this. There are those who have said a lot of things, especially when the committee, the Professor Nhovere committee was set up. There are those who argued that that was not necessary and they were trying to circumvent the process of the primary. What was the sense behind that committee in the first place?
Yeah, well, several things. I've been involved in Edo politics at least since 2006. We have never had that kind of crowd. 39 of them bidding for one position. And the rule is that each person will pay 50 million naira. And that translates to 1.45 billion naira. And we had a leadership meeting drawn from the Tiri senatorial zone. And we said we have to see how we can engage with these aspirants. Subsequently, we fixed a meeting, and before the meeting, the National Working Committee summoned a meeting of what they call expanded stakeholders, which include the elected leadership of the party in the state, and all the former senators, former governors, former deputy governors, etc., as well as all the aspirants to the APC headquarters. And in addressing us, the chairman said, Alhaji Ganduji, he said, He is aware that about 29 of our brothers and sisters are contesting. And for him, he wants us to win Edo State, and we want to win Edo State. He thinks that 29 people on parade is a recipe for disaster. Because out of all of this, only one person is going to win. And how do you manage that crowd? The ballot paper will be so long. So he advised us as a father, as an experienced, seasoned, grassroots politician, who is now the boss of the APC as national chairman. He advised us to meet and see how we can, quote, prune down the numbers. Prune down the numbers. And I think this was an honest advice, because they say, divided we fall, united we stand. So you will do well to prune down the numbers. However, if you want to all come and buy the forms are available. So we took note of this advice, which I think was a very helpful advice, knowing that whatever you do, only one person is going to emerge. And in this country, it's common for people to say, oh, after I spent so much, I've lost so much. Can somebody refund my money? And so we agreed that we should call a meeting of all the aspirants. We called a meeting of all the aspirants, all 29 of them, to meet with the leadership of the party in the state. About 9 of us. I was one of them. And fast forward, we asked them, will it be helpful if we set up a panel to interact with all of you aspirants with a view to pruning down the numbers as advised by the national chairman? And they all said, yes. I put the question 3-4 times, and they said, yes. And like we do in the Senate, I dropped the gavel. So done. We're now going to set up a panel. The next question is, who should populate the panel? Well, we look at people who have experience in election and who we believe are well-meaning and who share our mission to win the next governorship. Professor Ihobere, whatever you want to say, is a professor of political science, one of those who struggle for democracy, so he knows what is at stake. And as we speak, he's the leader of the House of Representatives. And along with 5 others, all of them have huge experiences behind them. So they know what it takes to win an election, and so on and so forth. And they came up with some criteria. But to prune, you have to agree on what criteria do we use. Because on paper, other than one of them I was told have multiple birthdays, it appears everybody meet the requirement. So how do you prune? They came to the conclusion that what is at stake is about being electable. Who is electable? Who is electable is not who is a professor. It's not who has PhD. Who is electable? And to answer that question, they said, okay, shall we look at the performance of each of these aspirants in the last 5 elections? That is, we had a governorship election in 2020. How did you perform in your unit, in your zone, or in your ward, or if there's in your local government? But we limited it to unit and in your ward. How did you perform in the last presidential election? How did you perform in the senatorial election? How did you perform in the House of Rep election? How did you even perform in the House of Assembly election? Now, if you have been losing serially in all of this, and the question arises, if you can't win, if the people in your own immediate neighborhood can't trust you with a vote, are they likely to vote for you if you're on ballot? I think this is just one of the calculations. And then how will you fund your campaign? How much do you know about the challenges of the state? How long have you been in the party? Because that's also a legal issue.
So, I mean, that process was a novel one. It hasn't happened before.
No,
so
it has happened. Wait, it's just that this one, when people cry out, then, I mean, if people keep quiet, you don't know anything is going on in the room. But if people start shouting, there is no time you have an election in any state where you have party leader, where they will not try, particularly if there seems to be a growing number. That's where you hear debate of whether there should be consensus or no consensus. But the law has been very helpful in this respect. Consensus can only now be achieved if every aspirant who has paid the fees write formally to withdraw. And so they came up with 6. And the leadership met again, and I said, in my opinion, there is no hiding it. I felt that people from my senatorial zone, at the moment, we have the minister. And I didn't think it would be equitable to approach the other 2 senatorial zones to say, vote for somebody from Edo North, where I come from, for governor. When as we speak, we have the minister, the only minister in the state. Because people want to see element of distribution. And so I pleaded with those of them from the north, my part, that, look, I don't want to be seen as a leader, quote, who is just looking at, quote, his people. Having governed Edo State, I am just an Edo man. I can't afford the luxury of being reduced to an ethnic champion. And in any event, it will not be viable to suggest to the majority, like people from Edo South, but Edo North has the governor, and Edo North also want to have the minister. Edo North has a minister as we speak, and they also say they must have the governor. Because theoretically, everybody that is participating in the process can probably end up as a governor.
That would have settled that concept of zoning in one way.
I'm coming to that. So, in other words, I have, in my view, convincing reasons why people from my part of the state should not go and struggle for the governorship office. Because to do that is to suggest to Edo South that constitute the majority that Edo North has they have the minister, but they also want to have the governor. I should be a unifying force. That's how I want to be remembered. Because in the course of my political journey in Edo State, I had the fortune of having the entire 77 wards in Edo South, the area you call Benin, voting for me against a Benin man. So they didn't see me as somebody coming from Edo North. And therefore, I ought to be sensible or sensitive to, something that would portray me as someone who, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, Chiu, whatever they say is a show money. Even when my view don't quite coincide. For example, when the former minister came up, not a few said, oh, Shomole must be the one behind him. But in Nigeria, nobody does anything unless somebody is behind it. Yet they have no hand in it.
Yeah, let me ask you.
That's what we have done. Now they've prone it to 6. We further prone it to 4. And we told them, then we went to them, we called all of them back, we had 2 meetings. And the second meeting we said, this is the findings of the Professor Ihobere's committee. And this is the criteria used. This is the marks used for each of these. And on the basis of those marks, these are the 6 that seems to have scaled through. And I told them, this is the recommendation of the party leadership. It is only persuasive. It is only persuasive. So Edo people will have the opportunity to choose from any of these. However, should you decide not to abide by it, we recognize the fact that this system is governed by law. You are free, if you don't abide by it, to go and try your luck. But you will not blame us in the end that, oh, I spent 50 million, I spent 60 million. Somebody should reform. Nobody is going to reform anything to anybody.
Because politics come with a lot of rumors. Yeah. And a lot of things are being said, and your name has been mentioned. And now that you are here, you might be able to clear the air. You're being said to be behind a certain or two aspirants. Are you backing anyone? Are you rooting particularly for anyone on this list?
But first, you know why this is laughable? First is that I am no more a governor. I don't have instrument of the state to coerce anyone. What I do have is the influence that I possess, that I built up as a result of my stewardship in Edo State, and even before Edo State, and even now in the Senate. Now, even in America, there's what we call superdelegates. So there is nothing wrong. I am entitled to a vote. And I cannot be denied that right to say I am going to vote for this person. I cannot vote for 2. And I told them, if all 29 of them were angels, Edo people will only be able to choose 1 angel. It is the nature of democracy. It is not, you can't choose more than 1 in this particular instance. So the rumor that you are backing this, you are fronting this, you are this.
So there's no truth in it.
About what?
Whether or not you have.
I will vote, and I will vote for a candidate. I can't vote for more than 2.
Do you have someone that you wish for on this list that you are rooting for?
I wish us to have a candidate that is capable of winning the next election, that will take over the governance of Edo State from PDP.
And which candidate do you think it is? And
in arriving at that, that is why I try to persuade, because I think my people should trust me. When I say my people, the people are representing in the Senate. They should trust that I cannot undermine their interests. That's why I'm able to tell them, look, let's not ask for too much, such as to be misunderstood as wanting to dominate the majority, okay? That is the extent to which I can go, and that's what we've done. Now, this week, there's going to be, the primaries will be conducted. I am not a governor. I don't have any instrument. I'm just a senator. So I don't have instrument of cohesion. I don't have the resources to say, you sit down. You know, like a governor could do. So when I see people talking about freedom, of course, the best proof that there's absolute freedom is that in spite of the recommendation of the Ihoberi's committee for 6, which we later pruned out to 4, 12 people as we speak have bought the form. And those 12 has been cleared, which shows clearly that the party is democratic. Being democratic doesn't mean you don't persuade people to abstain from a process if that will make the process easier. If they choose not to, you must recognize their right to do whatever they have chosen to do. And that is what is going on. And it's going on very, very peacefully. Of course, the only downside is when people tell all sorts of lies, you know, social media, they post all kinds of things. But again, this is, if you don't want to be stained, don't go to the bush and be fishing for rabbit. Certain that goes with certain vocation. Yeah.
Thank you so much indeed. We're totally out of time. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it. I'll be looking forward to the primaries. I'll probably talk about the state of the race exactly after the primaries. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to it too, but I assure you, I think the APC leaders, including the aspirants, they all mean well. And they all want us to win. If they think we can't win, they won't file out in the numbers that they do. I think we all share a conviction that we should take over Edo State and return it to the path of sustainable growth and development.
Thank you so much indeed. Always a pleasure having you. But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.
Hi. You don't know when you have bacteria breath, and bacteria may be the cause of it. Don't let bacteria breath get all the attention. Use Close-Up with antibacterial zinc. Close-Up helps get rid of bacteria breath.
Together, we play at Africa's biggest football tournament. Use BetAFCON promo code and get 1,000 Naira free bet. A 2 goals ahead offer. Outright admissions. Register for a welcome bonus of up to 200,000 Naira. Betano.ng. The game starts now. Only 14+. Terms and conditions apply.
Báwo ni arẹwà? O lè má mọ̀ gbà tí èémí ẹnu rẹ̀ ń rùn. Ó sì lè jẹ́ bakitéríà ló fà á. Má jẹ́ kí èémí ẹnu rírùn tí bakitéríà ṣe okùnfà yẹ̀yẹ́ rẹ. Lo Close-Up tó ní antibacterial zinc. Close-Up á bá ọ lé èémí ẹnu rírùn bacteria lọ.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast. and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify.